Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well. I'm back with yet another New Metal Monday where I talk about my favourite new releases of the week, and I have a feeling you're gonna know one of them at least, but I have 4 brand new albums that I want to talk about in today's video. Now before I begin, as always, every single album that I talk about in my New Metal Monday videos will be featured in a Spotify playlist which you'll find linked in the description box below. So if you use Spotify and you want to know what music I'm talking about, definitely follow that playlist because I want to make it as easy as possible for you guys to access the music. If you don't use Spotify, don't worry about it because in the description box below I will also have either the band's YouTube channel or their Bandcamp links as well, so you can access it in any way that you find the easiest. But like I said, I've got 4 brand new albums, one of which was absolutely huge from last week, so let's just jump straight in. So of course, the very first album that I want to talk about is the mighty Judas Priest with Invincible Shield, and it's the 19th studio album from the new wave of British heavy metal legends. Now, I am absolutely loving the fact that I'm living in an age of metal where we're absolutely spoilt for choice between new up-and-coming bands and the original greats that started it all off in the first place, who are still churning absolutely amazing albums out, even 50 years down the line. Now, Rob Halford is known as the metal god for a reason, because even over 70 years old, he still has this absolutely amazing, powerful, commanding, distinctive voice, even after all this time, and he has shown no signs whatsoever of slowing down. Now, this album radiates with pure heavy metal attitude, and it alternates between that furious riffage and those really catchy mid-tempo stomps. The drums in this are ridiculously thunderous, really heavy bass lines, a lot of really cool groovy melodics. The riffs and the solos are just out of this world. They're lightning fast, they're soaring, they're incredibly intricate and really addictive. This record is ridiculously catchy, and it's definitely a homage to the glory days of the 80s with a captivating modern approach to it, and I honestly believe that this will garner the praise of both new fans and the old guard. So if you are a fan of the likes of Iron Maiden, Saxon, a wee bit of Overkill in there, you're definitely going to want to get into this. Now, if you do want a full breakdown of this album track by track in a lot more detail, check out my review that I wrote for This Day in Metal, which I'll have linked in the description box below. Like I said, I go into much more detail about the actual album itself, track by track, blow by blow. The track that I'm choosing from this particular record is Serpent and the King. It was really difficult for me to actually pick one track because I genuinely love the entire album, but the thing that drew me to this track in particular was the fact that it starts off incredibly fast with that furious riffage, but then it slows it down to a really groove-laden stompy stomp of a chorus that you cannot help but chant back. It is so ridiculously catchy. Not to mention the guitar solos, they're absolutely flying, and I honestly believe that this is a definite crowd pleaser in the making. So if you haven't checked out Judas Priest's album yet, if you have been living under a rock, quickly go and check it out now. I loved this, and it's definitely going to be a contender for Album of the Year. Okay, so next up on my list I have Exorder with Defect Omnium, and it's the 4th studio album from the groove thrash metal band from the US. Now, this band have actually had a 27-year absence following the release of their last record via Roadrunner Records in 1992, but they've recently come back in 2019 via Nuclear Blast Records with Mourn the Southern Skies, and they're back again via Nuclear Blast once again with Defectum Omnium. Now, Defectum Omnium is Latin for the failure of all, but this record is definitely not a failure in any way whatsoever. There is so much drive, determination, and pure heavy metal sludgy power behind this. Now that they've completed their lineup with the legendary ex-Cannibal Corpse guitarist Pat O'Brien, they're definitely setting themselves up to propel themselves to the next level of their career. This is an absolutely fantastic combination of old school thrash metal, groove metal, a lot of really deep bassy sludgy moments with a wee hint of death metal in there as well. But this is just a snarling, vicious onslaught of killer riffs. The drums in this are incredibly thunderous, and it just repeatedly pummels you in the face with really vicious ferocity, but with a lot of groove and southern elements in there as well. Once again, if you do want a full breakdown of this album, track by track, in a lot more detail, check out my This Day in Metal review, which I'll have linked in the description box below alongside the Judas Priest album review. But if you are a fan of the likes of Pantera, Crowbar, Testament, with a wee bit of Death Angel in there as well, you're definitely going to want to get onto this. A standout moment for me on this record was definitely Defect Omnium, Stolen Hope. It starts off with this very ominous kind of feel to it, with the church choir kind of chants that builds that foreboding atmosphere before it slowly fades out to make way for a solid slab of pure thrash groove metal. This is so sludgy, it's so ridiculously catchy, and it just pummels you into submission. I absolutely loved that track. But definitely get onto this if you are a fan of groove metal with your old school thrash metal. Okay, so next up I have Skeletal Remains with Fragments of the Ageless, and it's the 5th studio album from the US death metal band. Now, when I say death metal, I mean straight up, in your face, no nonsense, pure modern death metal, and it is so riotous, it's savage, it's extreme and incredibly intense, and from beginning to end it does not relent. You've got all of that chugging goodness, epic riffage in this. The riffage is basically non-stop from beginning to end. How they carry that on is beyond me, but this is so devastating and crushing. It's an absolute riff fest. Rolling violent storms of thunderous blast beats. The gutturals in this are from the depths of hell itself. They are so demonic and so powerful. And honestly, this record just rips your face off from beginning to end. So if you are a fan of the likes of Frozen Soul, Cannibal Corpse, Incantation, Undeath, you're definitely going to want to get onto this, especially if you love your no-nonsense, straight to the point, rip your face off heavy death metal. Cybernetic Harvest was a definite standout moment for me on this record. It's just a bulldozer of a track that completely annihilates everything and just leaves this trail of destruction in its wake. A huge cacophony of ridiculous savagery. The riffs go hard, the drums are relentless, really heavy bass lines, and the solos are just absolutely insane and explode out of nowhere. I loved that track, and I loved the entire album. So like I said, if you love your straight up death metal, get onto this one. Okay, so last up on my list, but certainly by no means least, I have Ecclesia with Ecclesia Militar, and it's the 2nd studio album from the French dark doom heavy metal band. Now, they do refer to themselves as doom, but I wouldn't necessarily say that they play doom metal, so don't let that put you off. They certainly take a lot of inspiration from the doom genre, that's for sure, but this is a straight up catchy, ridiculously heavy, addictive heavy metal album. As you can probably tell from the album artwork, they take a lot of inspiration from religious imagery and monastic elements, especially in the actual music itself. There's a lot of monastic chants, a lot of choir chants that are very ominous and very, very haunting, that adds a huge layer of atmosphere to the melodic riffs and the catchy heavy metal. Plus, there's a lot of synthy moments and a lot of organs in this record as well, and it's just a really fun, uplifting, yet incredibly dark record. There's something really foreboding and dark about this record, but at the same time, it's ridiculously melodic and very, very catchy. The vocals are mainly clean vocals, and they're incredibly powerful and soaring, but the occasional haunting kind of demonic whispers come into play with the occasional guttural vocal as well, but it is primarily clean vocals. Flying solos, really epic chant-worthy moments that you can't help but sing back to. There's just something really magical and theatrical about the religious imagery combined with the really melodic, catchy heavy metal, and I absolutely loved this. So if you are a fan of last year's Green Lung album, a little bit of Candlemass, a little bit of Tony Martin era Black Sabbath, with a wee bit of Grand Magus in there as well, you're definitely going to want to get onto this. But it is something completely different, so even if that doesn't capture your attention, give it a shot anyway, because I was surprised. I was really surprised at how much I absolutely loved this album, and I can't get enough of it now. One of my favourite tracks of this record is definitely the title track. It's very riff driven, but it's also got a lot of really cool keys and synths in it too. Loads of monastic chants in this that just adds that extra layer of atmosphere, and it's got that really cool mid-tempo stompy stomp pace to it. Really ominous kind of demonic whispers, as well as those really cool clean soaring vocals and the occasional guttural, and this entire record was just so addictive, and you cannot help but get moving to this entire record, but this track in particular was my absolute favourite. And that's it for this week's New Metal Monday. Once again, comment down below to let me know what you think of today's records, and if you have any of your own recommendations, let me know and I'll definitely get them checked out. Once again, if you do use Spotify, make sure to follow my Spotify playlist, which is linked in the description box below, where you'll find every single album that I talk about on my New Metal Monday videos, unless they are a Bandcamp only release, but I will make sure that I get that noted in the description box too. And once again, if you don't use Spotify, either the band's YouTube page or their Bandcamp page will be linked down there as well. Like, share, subscribe. I really do appreciate your support as always. Thank you so much, and I will see you very soon in my next video.